broke down. I finally, after all these years of tremendous glory and tremendous, winning all kinds of awards, and then being canceled, when I told you, like the earth opened up and swallowed me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. And I was frightened, terribly frightened, because I was out of control now. So I ran to the bottle. I ran to the pills. I couldn't get through a night unless I drank, and I couldn't go to sleep unless I took pills.
John Callaway interviews Sid Caesar.
Before I'm finished with you, Bugle, you're going to be begging to be a boxer.
Oh, boy, he's in for it now. He's going to get the treatment. I can't look.
We'll have a little inspection, Private. You call yourself a soldier. Your good conduct medal is on crooked. I'll straighten it for you.
Sid Caesar owned America on Saturday nights in the early 1950s. So many people stayed home to watch Sid and Imogene Coca in Your Show of Shows that movie theater and restaurant owners begged NBC to move the program back to midweek. Sid Caesar was the king of sketch comedy, 90 minutes weekly and live. His court of writers included the future royalty of American film and TV, Mel Brooks, Carl Reiner, Neil Simon, Larry Gelbart, just to mention a few. Alfred Hitchcock said, "The young Caesar best approaches the great Chaplin of the early 1920s." Well, the glory years ended in 1958 when NBC canceled Caesar's Hour because of low ratings. Sid Caesar was only 36 years old. But what happened? Where has he been? The dramatic and sometimes tragic answers to those questions are contained in his recently published autobiography, Where Have I Been? It is a miracle that Sid Caesar is even alive to talk about his book and his life. In our recent conversation, he recalled some of the early childhood experiences which formed the basis of so much of what was to become his best comic material.
My father had this restaurant, the St. Clair Buffet Lunch, on the corner of Riverdale and Main Street in Yonkers, New York. And I would come in, for lunch from school. I'd pick up a couple of dishes, to show my father I'm trying to help out. And he would laugh. But I would hear we had all ethnic groups, from the Otis Elevator Works, from the carpet factory, from the hat shop, and from all the different industries around. And I'd walk over to, say, an Italian table, and I'd say, "Ma cosa, buongiorno, ma non mi giro proprio analo, lo cambiare son signoro, mentre lo filo, lo piccolo non lo mangiare, vantrasi loro, samba la fibra, lo con lo dal cellulare, me fanno lo tutto capacci in piazzi, sando lo sulio, lo mandare calati, e balafatro giolo."
How old were you when you were doing that?
About nine.
About 9
years old, yeah.
They had to be on the floor.
"Ah, poco scena piare, non solo, ma non lo così in piatto, adesso no." Then they would send me over to the Russian table, I go over there, and they would give me a curse word to say, and I would go over and I'd say, "На здоровье, Шакрев, ты не маешь родные меньше должна родные как на яйца. Их народ так не есть Сталине, Ростов не Сталине, Брежнев, Ростовнание, Khrushchev."
Could we broadcast this?
Why not? It's all right. The CIA knows I'm in one. He's Russian, let them figure out this code. They should get me, and I could talk to all the bevy, and they wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But I would go from table to table, French, Italian, German, all of it, everything.
Did you know?
Van een oog, van een richt, van een stad, bivan, rood, en ulda, en dan vracht, en dan tata, en dat mama is de tata mama. And the mama tatas and the fata and the oog van dat stede.
Followed by Donald Duck several years later, right? Did you know that you were on to performance then?
No, I really didn't. In fact, you see, all this stuff came very naturally to me. I mean, I never studied acting, I never studied drama, I never studied pantomime, I never studied languages or anything.
You studied saxophone.
I was studying saxophone. That was my big thing.
You got serious about that, did you not?
Yes, my big hero, I had two heroes in my life. One was Jacques Ibert. He wrote the Concertina da Camera, and the man who played it was Marcel Moulet. Marcel Moulet, to me, was the greatest saxophonist in the world. He played with the Paris Conservatory of Music. He played the Concertina da Camera by Jacques Ibert. And my big dream was to play that, go study at the Paris Conservatory. But unfortunately, World War II came, and I went in. But my other hero is Albert Einstein. And this is what happened to me, because I'll back it up just a moment. I had no faith in myself because all this, was happening. I could do it like nothing. And I went from success to success to success. When I went into the Coast Guard, I did a show called 6 On, 12 Off. And from there I went on, this is in the Coast Guard. And then I went on to do the movie, which put me right up. Then I went on and did nightclubs, a success. And then I went to do a Broadway show, a success.
Make Mine Manhattan.
Make Mine Manhattan, won the Donaldson Award. And I didn't even know what the Donaldson Award was. So I really had no background. And then from there I went on to television. It was a big smash right away. And from there I went on to movies. And so it was a success after success. Never tasted failure. Didn't know what it was. And I thought, who was doing all this? There's certain power. And all that power can be taken away from me. And I dreaded that. And this is because I had no confidence in myself, no self-worth, really. With all this.
Let's go back and talk about that, because I think that that your stories of your childhood, it seems to me, have some clues about why you might have. Your parents loved you.
Oh, definitely.
You know that.
I don't blame this on anybody. This is right. I mean, there's nobody to blame. This just happened. It's me. It happened to me.
I mean, the circumstances of their lives were not too terribly easy.
Of course not. You can't blame your parents for what happened to you. They did the best they could.
I mean, they were out. Your father, you say, got up early in the morning, took a shot of whiskey and some red peppers?
No, he used to put pepper on the whiskey. On the whiskey.
To get going.
Sure, because 4 o'clock in the morning in a railroad flat, that's pretty cold.
He was going down to the produce market.
He had to go down to the produce market in Washington at 5 in the morning. And he'd come back and buy some produce and then, and work all day in the restaurant and go to sleep, come back and go to sleep 7, 8 o'clock at night to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Go bankrupt in 1935?
That's I couldn't. When I saw that, my father brought down, and he was a proud, proud man, and a good man, and a very proud man. And when I saw him brought down, just broken. It affected me. And I said, well, then that's what a man has to do. I guess I have to go through that.
You got to suffer.
You got to suffer.
Or you're not a man.
Or you're not grown up. And I guess that's what I did, because I was waiting for this thing to happen. It's like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Everything is successful. I surpassed my father. I did better than my father. I remember when I came back from, after doing the picture, I came back for Christmas, and I found that my father was sick, desperately sick. And, in those days, nobody talked about cancer. And I said, what's wrong? And they said, cancer. Well, and I almost broke down, but my wife, Florence, who stood by me all these years and is still standing by me, she held me up. And I wanted them to see the picture, and I called a guy called Al Rhinelander with Columbia Pictures, and I said, is there any way my father can see the picture? He's very sick. He can't travel far. He said, is Lowe's Delancey near enough? We'll switch it. He was a very nice man. And I remember going to this preview in the car, and I couldn't take my eyes off my father. And we went to the preview, and I sat down, and I watched him. I didn't watch any of the picture. And after they did the airplane number, which is the big scene I had in the picture, everybody in the audience applauded the movie. And I looked at my father, and he went, that's all. And we drove home. He didn't say a word. And finally, when we got into the house, he said, Sidney, how much do you make a week? I said, $500, Papa. $500 a week. If you take care, you'll be all right.
That was a big vote of approval, wasn't it?
But that was the biggest he could go, because he didn't know how to approve. He didn't know how. He wanted to. In fact, my brother told me that when the picture opened, and I was away in California, and when I left him that time, I knew I was never going to see him again.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and when I came back, I knew it was going to happen, and when the phone call came about 6 o'clock in the morning, I said, that's it. And sure enough, he was very sick. And I tried to get back before he passed away. But my brother showed me a clipping that he kept under his pillow. It was a review of the picture. And there was something about me.
And a very favorable review.
Yes, a very, very favorable review. So maybe at least he died happy, knowing that I could take care of myself.
I saw there was an article in the New York Times in which you and some of your colleagues discussed the art of comedy. And your colleague, Mel Torkin, I think, said that comedians are people whose father didn't listen to them. He also said to entertain is a search for love.
Yes.
Does that ring any bells?
Well, my wife she's the one who invented this theory, because what she says, a comedian is either the only child in the family or the youngest child in the family. And it's true, because I had to compete with giants for attention. My brothers...
Literally, they were big brothers, weren't they?
Big boys. I mean, my
Dave
brother,
and Abe.
Abe was 6'4", Dave was 6'3". Abe weighed about 250 pounds, maybe more, and Dave weighed 280 pounds.
Here you come into the world, you're born, one is already, Dave is 10,
Dave is
and
10.
Abe is what, 18?
Abe is 18, yeah.
So you grew up with this...
Giants, yeah.
With these giants. Now, I know that, and you've even cautioned in the book, that you can't place too much...
You mustn't.
On what happened in the past, but there is a story about a baby carriage, which I think does have to be... I mean, you wrote about it.
Well, that's
you can't avoid that kind of thing.
No, that's it, because I remember that very vividly. We lived on a hill on Hawthorne Avenue, 27 Hawthorne Avenue.
In Yonkers.
In Yonkers, New York. And my mother and my father would be in the restaurant with my other brother, Abe. And they would run the restaurant. They had to be there. So somebody had to take care of me. So my brother Dave used to take care of me. He was 10 years older. So he would tie a little string around the baby carriage, you know, the handle, and then he would let the carriage roll down. And as I went down the hill, I was used to seeing hands on the carriage. And when I didn't see any hands on the carriage, I thought I was falling. And then all of a sudden I'd be jerked back up, and then he, you know, rolled back. It was a game to him. He didn't know it was scaring me to death. You know, that was every time. And all afternoon was, and you come back up. And I had to, I associated that with somebody who was in control. They're controlling my life, because they can, if they let go, I roll down the hill. I don't know where I'm going. I'm out of control. And this is what happened in my life. When finally I found that there was nobody at controls. I wasn't even at the controls, because I was drunk.
You started running for the bottle during Make Mine Manhattan.
Around Make Mine Manhattan, yes.
But you were up to a fifth of scotch a day then, weren't you?
Well,
on your way to a fifth?
I was on my way. And Make Mine Manhattan, I was 48 into 49. I used to drink, like, after a rehearsal or after a show. We have a couple of drinks, and that's fine. It was great, and I liked it. It relaxed me. And was anybody else had a couple of drinks, it was fine. Then it got to be 5, and 6, then 10, then a half a bottle, then a bottle. And it got to be, I said, I can quit any time. I mean, it just relaxes me after. That's all I know, you know. That's nothing wrong with that.
And describe what you were eating all at the same time.
I would eat, oh, God, I would start out, I would have a lobster. And after the lobster, I would have a nice thick cut of prime rib with the bones.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt. Start with breakfast.
Oh, breakfast? Well, breakfast was whatever. I mean, I would have steak and eggs. I'd have, let's see, I'd have orange juice, steak and eggs with potatoes, with applesauce, with bread, with everything, and then throw it up.
And then at 11 o'clock in the morning?
11 o'clock in the morning, another
sandwich?
Sandwich.
And then you'd have lunch.
Then I'd go to
lunch.
Then I'd go to lunch and have corned beef sandwiches with celery tonic, plenty of mustard, a lot of pickles, and just eat till I'd throw it up. And then for dinner I would go and have lobster, and then have it followed by a prime ribs with a saddle on it. It's a little steak with a mushroom with the jockey. So all this was like a lot of fun, washed down with a lot of booze, and I'd throw all that up. So all this was trying to get something out of food, and then throwing and regurgitating and throwing it back. So I was on a yo-yo. But I thought, well, that's all. I throw it up. It doesn't make any difference. It did save my life, though, because I threw up the booze with it.
But at the same time, you were making what kind of money? Weren't you starting to really bring it home?
Well, I was making $1 million a year. $1 million a year, $25,000 a week. And this is when you had money. I mean, this is when $5 went a long, long way. And but I didn't know how to handle money. I didn't know how to handle anything. But there were people who were backing me who did know how to handle it. So I was going, I thought this was never going to end. This is going to just go on and on.
This was too much too soon. I mean, here you were in your 20s when this was going on.
Right.
You got married at the age of 20.
Yes.
You married a woman, by the way, who sounds like she had, early on, had an eye out for what some of your psychological predicaments were.
She did, and I didn't listen to her. I didn't know it. My wife is about the strongest woman and also the most perceptive woman I've ever known. And if it wasn't for her, and I tell you this without any reservation at all, if it weren't for her, I would not be sitting here today. I would be gone, dead.
It seems to me that's clear, but what is it that Florence Levy Caesar has? How could she put up with that all those years? Who is she?
She is a saint, by all means. But aside from that, You know, she never gave out any interviews. And she did give one interview out. And I happened to hear it. And she said, you know, they asked her, well, how could you put up this manic depressive, you know, 39 years? It's pretty crazy, you know, flying all over the world to get them out of hospitals, flying over here, flying over, I mean, all over the world, truly. Because I would take pills and I would go on a plane and booze and, you know, fall asleep and they couldn't wake me up. And she said in this interview, they said, well, why did you stay with him all these years? She said, well, I always was optimistic, you know. I said, maybe the old Sidney will come back. Because she loved the old Sidney.
He was the Sidney who wrote her love letters.
He's the Sidney that wrote these little cute little songs, you know. I wrote you a song for your birthday. I wrote you a song for your birthday. I wrote it because I want you to know that I couldn't buy anything real to show you, darling, just how I feel. So I wrote you a song for your birthday. I wrote it because I want you to know that I still remember the 3rd of September means happy birthday, dear Florence, to you. Yeah, she wanted that guy to come back. But on top of that, they said, well, you know, you're looking at him. How could you stay with him that long? And she said, quite simply, said, I love him. And that answered a lot of questions.
You would have died without her, would you not?
Absolute.
I mean, you talk about letting go of the baby carriage. That
yes.
would have been the final ride, would it have not?
That was it, for sure. And this is no kidding. We're talking about life and death.
As I read your story and as I listen to you, I guess I'm more amazed by the great amazements are your stomach, her patience
yes.
and endurance. And then there is a part of your story that just angers me beyond words, and I wish you'd speak to it, and that is the doctors, in order to wean you from booze, started putting you on pills.
Yeah.
Now, tell us about that, because
well,
I just can't believe that story.
Well,
I got some questions, sir.
Surely. I was drinking about I would drink between around 6:30 and 10:30. I had to get 2 bottles in between then.
Because you showed up sober at work, right?
That's it.
The old pro.
That's right.
Okay.
I would show up and I would put 2 bottles away. What were we talking about?
We're talking about the pills.
Oh yes,
the doctors who
I would put about 2 bottles away, and the doctor said, "Look, why don't you want to go to sleep? The booze is not putting you to sleep anymore. You're passing out. Take these pills." So I took the pills. It's all right. Didn't put me to sleep though.
What were the pills?
Chloral hydrate. They were the first ones. Chloral hydrate, and I took it with pills. Took the booze with the pills, and that was good. So that was another habit. So instead of just the booze, I had pills now. Then we went from tranquilizers, we went to sleeping pills. And we took both sleeping pills and tranquilizers with scotch. And everything was mixed up. And then after a while, this started to really get to me because I am strong. But you can't fight that because that's a killer combination.
That's what killed Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, a lot of people, not just... and I'm not the first recovered alcoholic. I'm still recovering. But the pills, oh, boy, that really sends you into another world. And really, I didn't know what I could see my timing. I would watch some of the kinescopes once in a while, and I'd see the timing wasn't there, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't clean. It was wrong, and I overstated myself. I kept on repeating. I never was clean. It just didn't get in there. It was just a little bit off. I could see it, but people were still saying, hey, he's all right, you know. But I knew it. But I could not stop.
How many pills were you taking? Now you were up to 2/5 of scotch.
Well, sometimes with the pills I would take a fifth, maybe a fifth and a half.
Okay, a fifth or a fifth and a half. How many pills were you taking at the maximum?
I would take like Equinol. I would take about 4 Equinol and 4 barbiturates, like sodium amytal.
Didn't you get up to 8 and 8 at some point?
Oh yeah, it was up to 5 and 5.
5 and 5. You went to 8 and 8.
Could be.
There's something in the book about one of your kids saying his daddy to 8 and 8 tonight.
Yeah, that was it.
All right, now let's talk about the math of that. That's how many pills in a week? That could be 70, 80, 90,
pills a week,
whatever.
Yeah, sure, 100 pills a week.
Now, you know the doctor who let you have that.
What doctors?
The doctors. How many doctors were you talking?
Oh, about 3.
Are they still living?
I guess so, sure.
Are they still practicing?
Yeah.
Why? Let's start blowing some whistles.
Yeah. Well,
I mean it.
I know.
That's murder.
It is.
They could have killed you. I mean, why doesn't somebody finally... You've written a nice book. You've told an urgent and witty and nice story. But there's just a little paragraph about the doctors.
I know.
You want to name some names?
Well, there's no doctors to name. They're all working out, you know. It's for me to...
I mean, shouldn't somebody get those people out of business?
Well, you see, if they have a difficult patient, they're not going to. They're going to try, and then they can't. So they give them pills to go out. They got too many people. That's the same thing as nobody has the time.
Didn't they get rich on you? I mean, isn't that exactly what we're talking about?
Yes, definitely, absolute.
Anybody in your family? Did your wife Flo ever get angry that doctors?
Oh yes, she did, very much so. And she used to hide the pills. My son used to hide the pills, and he used to hide the bottle. He used to take the pills and spill half of it out and put it back. He would try. My son had to grow up, and he had to mature very fast because he had no father. I wasn't there. That's one thing I really miss. I missed my children growing up. I wasn't.
You really did, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
When I read your story, I get the sense, and it's not only your story, but a pattern begins to emerge as more of you who've come through these wonderful and awful experiences begin to reveal them and to talk out loud about them in the hopes, as you say in the preface, that maybe some of the rest of us who have problems know, listen, if this guy can deal with it... If I did it,
you know, and I thought I could never get through a night without a drink or a pill.
I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to look at another comedian on the Carson show without saying, I wonder what your tortured background is. Is it necessary to have these huge needs of love that were earlier unmet in order to be the genius that those of you who are genius comedians are?
I don't know. I really tell you, I don't know. I know that the people who are in comedy are a little odd. They have to have.
They're angry.
They're angry, true. I was very angry. All of it was anger. But I channeled the anger into something that was positive. It made people laugh. You know, today they take the anger and it's pure. It doesn't change. It comes across cruel. It doesn't come across. If you want to make a statement, your prime target in comedy is laughter. After you get the laughter, if you want to put in something that you want to say, you want to make a statement, fine. But don't stand on a soapbox and do it, because I'm not laughing at that. The prime motive for comedy is to make people laugh. After that, if you have something that you want to say, that's fine. But don't just make it as a statement when it's supposed to be comedy.
But must you be so angry, and must you be so in search of love and approval as a comedian that you don't have anything left over for yourself and your family other than what happens in that writer's room and on front of the camera? Is that almost, I mean, Hemingway said he wouldn't go into psychoanalysis because he didn't want to, his neurosis was, he'd lose it.
Again, you see that he'd lose the power.
Right.
He's afraid.
Right.
It's not true, because now I am much better off. I am better now. Of all these angers, all the angers I had, and I still have angers. I still get mad. I'm human. But I don't get as mad as I used to. Everything is a matter of balance. It's how much you... Everybody has a cycle this way or a cycle that way. I mean, I do strange things, and even anybody does strange things. It's the degree to which you do the strange things. If you take it to a point where, I mean, it's ludicrous. I mean, you're tipping it way over, and you have no balance. That's what was lacking in my life. I would get very mad, or I'd be very happy. That's manic depressive.
That raises the question. The one hope I have through these conversations is that someday somebody, a young performer at Second City or a young performer on Saturday Night Live, a future John Belushi, and we can talk about John, will look at the witnessing of a Sid Caesar and say, well, now, I think I've learned something tonight. And yet there's a side of me that says, you can't talk this and the books can't do. You got to hit bottom yourself and you got to do it yourself. Do you think mental health can be taught?
Well, a lot of things can be avoided. Let me say that. You have no, I mean, people talk to me until they were blue in the face and said, Sidney, you realize what you're doing. You've got everything in the world. You have everything. What are you doing to yourself? Why? Why throw everybody away? Why push people away? Why? I don't know. I had to go through it. I had to bounce. I had to go through it. Because nobody teaches experience. There is no store. There is no place for experience. You have to go through it yourself. You try to help your children. Or tell them, you know, hey, don't go through this. You don't have to. But they're going to go through it. They got to go through it.
Because you have to feel it. You can't just know it.
Isn't that it? It's one thing to know something intellectually. You know, I know this and I know that and I know that. 2 and 2 is 4.
Supposed to eat vegetables and get a good night's sleep and all that stuff.
Do that. That's not it. It's if you feel it, you say, you know, I feel like getting better. It's as simple as that. Because the power of your own voice. You know, not many people have know or the sound of their own voice. It's powerful. It truly is. It's like this boob tube that goes out there. Buy this, buy that. Buy this with the blue thing with the little pink bow. Buy the blue thing with the little pink bow with the pink bang tone. Buy this with the bing bang boop bum dum dum ding dang dum ding dang dang. Buy the bing bing bang. Buy this, buy that, buy this. Right? That's a voice coming and hitting you all the time. Well, if you talk to yourself and you listen, you make sense and you say, hey, I buy that. When you buy it, a whole thing goes on here because you went through it. You're buying not to punish yourself. I don't have to punish myself. And this time I bought it because I said I had enough punishment. And
Which brings us to what, May 22nd, 1977? 78?
Yes.
In
Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. And that's where I walked on the stage, and I couldn't remember a line. I couldn't remember anything. And that really shook me. I mean, that was...
You'd faked it until then.
Not only that, but the degradation that you feel of like, I mean, look where you were and look where you are now. It was like Blue Angel, almost, because a man is a tremendous professor of science, and only he becomes a sideshow clown of nothing, no repute, nothing. And that's how I felt, as a clown of nothing and no self-worth of anything. But then when I said to turn around, and all I did was listen to myself. I've been told this a million times.
But wasn't there a pretty tough doctor you also had the good fortune to encounter?
You mean LeBlond?
Yeah.
Well, I would have followed any doctor at that time because I had reached, that was it. And I said, it was the first time in my life I ever said, please help me. That was the first time I ever said, please help me. And he knew what I meant. And I went in there. I didn't want to take another pill. You couldn't have forced me to take a pill. You couldn't force a drink on me now.
So you went cold turkey for a week up there?
Well, I was in the hospital for a week, but I'm still going through it. It's not over. It really is.
Every day?
Oh, sure. I still talk to myself every day.
Why didn't you join AA?
I was afraid of anonymity. I was afraid to go in there. People would find out Sid Caesar's drunk.
They promise anonymity, but when you're the best-known performer in America, it's a little tough, right?
It's tough. And it's my fault. It's not theirs.
They were there.
Oh, they were there, sure. They would have welcomed me with open arms. But I didn't want to do it. I have to want to do it. And when I did it, it wasn't easy, but boy, it wasn't hard. It wasn't that hard, let me tell you that. Because you know why? I didn't have to think about it. I don't have to worry about the bottle anymore. I don't have to worry about how many pills I got. That took up 97% of my day, worrying about how many pills I got and where are the bottles. This took up a whole day, and now I have time to talk to people. I couldn't talk before this. I couldn't sit and hold a conversation. Truly.
That's right. They said you would sit in parties and not say a word.
Sit like this and drink. I would have
Make
an interview.
the nation laugh, but you wouldn't be anything at a party.
Nothing. Absolute nothing. Complete zero. That's the self-worth I had. But let me tell you, now when I started to remind myself in Paris about all these things that have happened to me, I said, what are you talking about? Let's talk about self-worth, Sid. Do you remember Albert Einstein called you? Albert Einstein called me. I'll never forget. I was on the floor, and I was directing the show. It was a show day. And I was saying, well, all right, we'll get this in. All right, fine. And my secretary would come in and said, Mr. Caesar, Albert Einstein wants to talk to you.
And you said, what's Mel Brooks up to now, right? Yeah.
Good joke, fellas. Very good. Everybody laughing. Good. All right. Joke is over. We got a lot of things to do. Said, no. Dr. Einstein wants to talk to you. I said, the joke is over. I mean, what are we talking about? No. And when I realized Einstein wanted to talk to me, and he made a date to meet him at Princeton and come over and talk.
What do you want to talk about?
I didn't know. But I ran out and I bought every book on relativity that you could find because I was going to learn the theory of relativity over the weekend. Unfortunately, he passed away. I never got to talk to him. But a couple of years later, I was walking through the halls of Columbia University. I was going to give a little tiny talk there, mostly question and answer. And I bumped into this man, and he said, excuse me, aren't you Sid Caesar? I said, yes. He said, I'm Robert Oppenheimer. I said, who? Robert Oppenheimer. Robert Oppenheimer. He said, no, Albert, we used to talk about you. I said, oh? He had figured out the physical equation. He wanted to talk to you about the human equation. I said, Einstein wanted to talk to me? That was like, and he just walked away. And I said, Einstein, I made Einstein aware that I was alive. And I feel no self-worth. Then after that, I started to talk to myself, Sidney, you're an idiot. You're a dumbbell. You're a dum-do. You're a bung, bang, bang, bang. Albert Einstein wants to talk. He's aware that you're around. My God, think of it. How many people... And that's when I started to drink in a little bit, because I was starving myself. I wouldn't allow myself even to enjoy a compliment from somebody. Said, well, wonderful show. Last night. Oh, yeah, well, it's okay. Could not accept it. Could not accept any
Because you weren't worthy of it, were you?
I wasn't worthy of it. I didn't do it. Some power did it. Why? I'm going to take credit for it? But I was doing it. That's what I finally realized, that I was doing it. I was punishing myself. I was the one who made people laugh. And I was the one who was making me crazy and making me sad.
Sid Caesar was also making his family sad. Those early 1950s photos of Sid, his wife Florence, and their 3 children masked the anger and grief they all experienced because of Sid's addictions. Sid says he was trying to push them away, but that now he's trying to forge new relationships with his wife and children. His daughter Michelle, now married, is an artist who specializes in stained glass windows. His son Richard, who grew to be 6 feet 11 inches tall, is a physician who specializes in emergency room medicine in Portland, Oregon. His youngest daughter, Karen, works in public relations in Los Angeles. But for all the self-destruction and stress on his family, Sid does have wonderful memories of the great days in live comedy television. He also has some strong reservations about the way television is produced today.
There's a big difference between tape and live, and the difference is night and day. And let me explain what I mean. In live, when you go on, you have so much adrenaline going because you know this is the only shot you got. This is it. As you say it, it goes out. And this is when your performance comes up, because you got to do it. There's no second take, we'll do it again. Oh, let's take it. Oh, I'm sorry, I had a little thing. None of that. It's there. And to me, it's like, would you watch a football game on tape?
I'd rather watch it live.
Of course, because you know when you watch it live, there's only 3 things they can do with the ball. That's it. Yet hundreds of millions of people watch. They can kick it, throw it, or run with it. But it's live because he can drop it, he can fumble, he can hit, he can pass, he can get tackled, he throws the ball, he gets the ball, he'll come over here. There's a trillion things that can happen. This is what the fun. Not the same the 2 guys, hey, hop, hip, hike, honk. If you don't just hump, 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 honk, that would be nothing, right? Here we go, dum, 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 honk. But they can throw it, they can, and those just the little variations. Think of what you could have with comedy if it was live. You'd see the mistakes. You'd see the humanity. They've taken all the humanity out. If they went by the football thing, and they tipped and they picked it up, and the guy, he dropped the pass. All right, cut. You got to catch the pass, Harry, then come in and fumble it to him. You understand? When he fumbles it back to you, you dribble the ball on the ground, then roll over, and let him step on your face. As he comes over, you grab the ball. Now, should we run that again? Should we run that play again? It's crazy.
That's motion picture making.
This is making make-believe. And comedy is not make-believe. Comedy is supposed to be make-believe because there's nobody between you and the audience. It's just the cameraman shooting, boom, and that's it. It goes right to you. But now you get the guys, then you get the editor. I think we'll cut that down, cut us timing down to here. Then we'll cut this over here. We'll shove a laugh in here. Now, you want a bigger laugh, right? How about a little applause? Wouldn't, right? A little laugh, applause, and then a real psycho standing ovation because he said, I'll see you later, sissy. And that's it. It comes packaged. And the humanity is out of it. It becomes something altogether different. It becomes something that goes through 15 hands because 16 guys sit around and say, after the show is over, and go, you think that worked? Well, maybe we could give it a bigger laugh. Well, let's take it back. Well, we can get them, instead of coming in the door, we can get them going out the door, and we can cut that whole thing out and just have them say to her and put the laugh in. So it loses all its original meaning.
Meanwhile, you've upped the price of it because you're doing all of that, and you've taken probably one of the great comforts the comedian has, and that is the discomfort of being live.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the head. That's the truth.
So why do we do it that way?
Because it's a business. It became too much of a business. Of course, television's a business. Everything's a business. But when you're counting on creativity, you can't count on business. You can't run it as a business. Because creativity, if you shove it into a mold, is not creativity anymore. It just becomes what it is in the mold. And that's what they're getting out, and they wonder why. Why are we getting the same thing? The same thing because it comes out of a mold. Nobody's thinking. Nobody's trying. They're trying, but they're trying with people that they know, you know. Let's do a show exactly like that, but altogether different. You know, a show just like that, but altogether different, but it's got to be like that.
But I think some of the people who didn't come up on live television don't understand how you could get all the costume changes in, how you could run the graphics across the screen, all of the sorts of things they're used to seeing today. They probably say, well, you got to edit that.
No, you don't. It can be done. We've done it. You see, it's all formed today. I mean, technically they are light years ahead of us, whatever we did. But in content ways, they are light years behind what we did. They are going into nothing. It's an abyss of rehash of rehashes of the same comedy. And Saturday Night Live has a couple of good things. SCTV, I think, is a little better. And they have some great ideas, but they don't follow them through. They don't take them and go with them. And, it's a story. If you tell a little story, if you tell just jokes, people don't remember jokes, but they remember a story, a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And they remember characters.
Exactly, but they have to be within the story. And if they like the character in the story, that's what they go with. They have to buy the person. And this is what I'm trying to say, that live, it wouldn't be a bad idea if it came back. It wouldn't hurt at all, because it would give a whole new emphasis and a whole new thrust to comedy. It truly would.
I can understand the joy that you took in live television, but I do not understand how you came up with 6 fresh skits every single week without burning out in about 22 minutes.
Well, you must remember the writers we had. Now, I had writers like the caliber of Neil Simon, Mel Brooks, Woody Allen, Larry Gelbart, Tony Webster, Mike Stewart, Joe Stein, all these men. Joe Stein was the guy who wrote Fiddler on the Roof. Michael Stewart wrote Hello, Dolly, and Bye Bye Birdie. And all of these men are tremendous, tremendous talents. I mean, they're geniuses, all of them. And we all were in the room together, and we all wrote together. And this is what we came out of it, because we could not go near sex. Pregnant was a dirty word.
You couldn't be political like they are now.
You couldn't go. You could be a generic politician, but you couldn't zero in on any one politician, or either a Republican or Democrat. You couldn't go anywhere near it. A generic, it's okay, maybe. And you couldn't go anywhere near religion. You couldn't talk about it or touch it, which I think is okay, because it forced us to be ingenious. We had to get the laugh. We couldn't go for a cheap joke. We couldn't go for a shock joke, and we couldn't go for something that's a little off. We had to be funny on our own, and this is what I'm talking about. The fun has to come from the people. Things are not funny. People are funny.
And yet you made things funny. You made white wall tires funny. You made all kinds of things funny.
Well, because I humanized them. I made a white wall tire that talked to you, the white wall tire. Hey, I just come off the factory, and come out of here. I'm going to be on a big limousine. Hey, I'm going to make friends with this, and you'd be a white wall tire because, hey, look where we're going. We're going over here. We're going to go over there. And I'm washed every day, Everybody takes care of me. Oh, yeah, I rode around, and they pump me. I'm full of air. My air gets checked every day. Oh, yes, I'm all set. He makes friends with the left rear tire. And then all of a sudden, he's not there anymore, He doesn't go to the fancy places anymore. And he gets backed into the curb, and nobody says anything. He's not washed anymore. And what's going on, And all of a sudden, he's going on, and you see he's going up to the mountains, on a hot day, and he's very loaded down. A lot of people in the car. He's not going to the store club. He's not going to the hot shot places he used to go, and he doesn't understand it. And he sees his buddy is the right rear tire, the left rear tire. That's his buddy for years. And he's starting to go, and I can't hold out, Mac. I can't. Oh, he says, you got to hold out. You got to hold out. Just for me. I mean, who am I going to talk to? Who will I go? You can't leave me now. You can't. And he's gone. They take him off the rim, and they throw him on the side of the road. And they take out this new tire from the trunk. And this new tire goes, hey, I'm going to ride it. He doesn't know him. He says, where you been? He says, I've been in the trunk. I got to get out. I'm going to do what I'm going to be. I'm going to sell. Gee, the world has changed. It really has changed. His friends are gone. He doesn't go to the places he used to go. He doesn't know what he's doing. And all of a sudden, he starts to go. He says, I can't take it anymore either. I just can't take it. I don't want to. And he blows out. And they take him and they throw him on the side of the road. And the car drives off. And then a couple of kids come along. They pick him up and they start to roll him. They take him to their yard and they hang him up, and it becomes a swing. And that's a tiny little story about a white wall tire. Well, I didn't do it. I mean, I just told you the story. But I humanized that little tire.
How did you do that? How long? I mean, did you have to sit and really, literally kind of put yourself into that tire?
Yes, you'd put yourself in, you'd watch a tire. What I did, I saw a huge, beautiful Rolls-Royce limousine, and I saw these tires, beautiful white wall tires. I said, that must be something. He must be proud. He gets washed about 3 times a day. He only goes to the store club and the opera. That's all he goes to. I mean, that's what you call a pedigree tire, you know. And but think of him, all of a sudden his owner, he didn't do too well financially. And all of a sudden he's got to sell the car. And he becomes a cab. And he becomes this, and then finally he's not washed. So it's a story.
So you can do that with, I mean, you could take that little microphone
and
there.
Make the whole thing.
And, hey, I was on Sid Caesar's chest all after.
Not only that, I did a thing about being a movie screen. A movie screen, and he opened up, there was a great big movie screen, and he said, I had Greta Garbo on me. I had Greta Garbo, John Gilbert, Clark Gable. Oh, yeah, I had them all. They were all on me. Now he's a burlesque house. He says, I don't like what I do now. I hate what I do now. But there's nothing I can do about it. You have to live with it. That's the way the world goes. And this way, as a little one, he has to accept his lot. Maybe someday those pictures will come back. But I'm saying it gives a little story. It humanizes something.
So that material wasn't a problem per se.
Oh, it was a problem. I mean, I mustn't go past the writers. I give them all the credit in the world because it starts with the writing. And also after that, what you do with it, that's something else. But when you start with writers like this that I have, I mean, you couldn't go wrong.
How much of a show would you do? Let's go to the 90-minute show.
For 90 minutes? I mean, I don't know how much comedy would be out of 90 minutes?
No, I mean, you do 6 skits, but how many of them did you have to originate as opposed to one of the writers?
Well,
it's not, I can't put it that neatly, right?
It's not that I would say something, or Mel would say something, or Larry would say something, or Neil would say something. I could never tell you where the idea germinated.
You could walk in with your thing about being a fly, and somebody else could add to it, and then you would add to it.
Right.
And then
That's how it was written, because I would come in and say, hey, you know, I saw a fly on a piece of cheese the other night. We had a couple of drinks after the rehearsal. I said, you know, I saw that fly on a big piece of cheese, and I just said, can you imagine a fly walking all over the cheese, saying, it's mine, all mine, acres and acres of cheese, and it's all mine. Well, I said, let's make him waking up in the morning in a house, right? And he's got to go, he's going to have breakfast. No, he's going to come down, and he's going to wipe himself off and get off all these things. And how a fly does, and I think I'll fly down to under the toaster. Gee, it's all clean. Everything, they cleaned up the toaster. There's always something. The sink. I'll fly over the sink. There's always a piece of lettuce in the sink. They cleaned up the sink. My God, it's disgusting. They cleaned up. Somebody must be coming. I got to fly downtown. I got to fly downtown for breakfast. Well, I get up into the screen. He gets out of the screen. I get all my legs out of here. I wish I could do it. I mean, I can't. I gets out of the screen and he flies. Oh, hello there, Mr. Horsefly. How are you? Well, I haven't seen you. I see. We had a fly. The shrimp boats are coming in. I'm going to go down there this afternoon. Why? How you doing? I heard you got married. That's nice. Any children? 4 million. That's nice. All girls? Wow, it's going to be some wedding bill for you. Well, I got to go down. So this is what I do. Take a fly. Take him downtown. Let him see breakfast. And one thing I did, remember Bishop Sheen was watching the program. He made one statement about this thing I did at the fly. I was flying downtown, and I looked at a sign and I said, look at that sign. DDT kills flies instantly. My, there's a lot of hate in this world. So you can make a statement, but the main thing is you have to be funny first. Then make a statement.
What was it like in that writer's room?
Exciting. Really exciting. Sometimes very dull, sometimes very painful, sometimes arguments broke out because we felt for the show. I mean, there was nobody kidding either. Nobody was kidding anybody. Because if he wanted to, when you have talents like Mel Brooks topping Neil Simon, and Neil Simon topping Larry Gelbart, and Woody Allen topping Larry Gelbart.
So it's competitive.
So it's competitive. You have people, and they fight for their ideas. You know, these guys weren't just...
were they personal? I mean, would it get tough?
Oh, it would get pretty personal, you know. Of course it would. You know.
I mean, were they put down artists as well as...
Oh, if you were in the room and if you couldn't take it, I mean, you had to get out of the kitchen because it does get very hot in there. And you do. People, you know, you lose your temper a little bit. And you say, hey, we're going to be all right.
Does it start out dirty? Do people get obscene and then silly and then maybe brilliant? Does it work like that at all?
It can go from, it'll start out sometimes if you have you start out maybe a dirty joke, and that's lead to the, but you got to start off somewhere. You see, because we had no social life. We wrote from 10 in the morning till 6, 7 o'clock at night, and the show had to be written by Wednesday. If it wasn't written by Wednesday evening, we would have to go to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Somebody said it was like a family without any of the advantages.
Exactly. Well, because we lived together practically, for about 14 hours a day. Because we were there, we were there, we were there, we were there. And we were always constantly thinking. Even when you went home, you were constantly thinking. Because ideas were very precious. And if an idea was, we had a good idea. And sometimes, you get a good idea and you write it down, and it looks good on paper and it feels good. When you put it up on its feet, it just doesn't work. Now, if it's a good idea, we can't afford to throw it away. There's something is wrong. Maybe it's not for me. So maybe it's for Imogene. They could turn it around for Imogene. If it's not for Imogene, for Carl, for Howie. It had to be because good ideas were too precious. We couldn't throw them away.
But were you handed, I got the impression you did a lot of ad-libbing. Were you handed a formal script? You didn't have teleprompters, did you?
No, there were no cue cards. But there was a formal script. There was a way to go.
I mean, the director had to know some of this insanity, didn't he?
There's a script. There was a definite script. But if something happened, which obviously does happen, and when live, something happens, that's where you have to keep on going. If a phone is supposed to ring and it doesn't ring, I'd say, I think the phone is ringing, don't you? Sure it is.
And didn't you make a mistake? Weren't you doing a routine once where you mistakenly hit yourself with an eyelash pencil or something like that on the forehead?
Pagliacci. I was doing the Arioso from Pagliacci. We were doing a satire of Pagliacci. And I was putting the makeup on. And I was saying, and I put the makeup, and it broke. The pencil broke right on that. And I continued on. I put the line down. I said a line. I put another line. And I put a line over here, another line this way. And I played tic-tac-toe.
And that was all ad-libbed, right?
That was all ad-libbed. I said, the pencil broke. I got to keep going. There's a line on my face. It's not supposed to be there. So I put the other line and made it this way and that way, while singing the aria. That's where you find, and it's so wonderful when that happens. That's like a feast. Because when you can tread the line between tragedy and comedy, that's beautiful.
Which is what you were doing all the time.
Yes.
Now, you had things that fell flat, did you not?
Sure.
Do you have any memories?
We had shows that were, not too good.
No, but I mean, I'm talking about things that were just really
didn't go
dead.
That's right. They just went, and we thought they were funny. You can't be right all the time.
Didn't you have a chimp once that was supposed to?
We had a thing where we tried them once, where we had this chimpanzee, and we had these 4 Englishmen. It would be Carl, Howie, myself, and Imogene. And we'd be very, very sad, but no talking, just sitting. We'd be announced, Lord Finchley Potlar, Lord Lady Tuntly Turn, and sitting and not talking, just like this. And that got funny because the rain started to come down. And we'd talk in the rain because this old castle had a broken roof and the rain would come down. But then we said, and that became very funny, then we wanted to get a chimpanzee. We said, let the chimp jump all over us. And in rehearsal, this chimp was crazy. He broke me up. He was biting on my ear. He was going all over because.
But you're supposed to remain dignified.
He was going all over us, and it was hilarious. And we broke. After we did the sketch, we did the show. That was the rehearsal. And we come back, we do the show, and we get there, we sit down, and the chimp is sitting with us, picking his teeth. They fed him. While the rehearsal was over, in between rehearsals, and they fed him before the show, so he just sat there. We weren't looking for food. And I was loaded with bananas and oranges and peels all over. But he just didn't go.
So you all sat out there?
We all sat out there for the prescribed time and said, we got to move very fast after this, because this is dying.
That's what was wonderful about live TV comedy. You could die, and audiences loved it. Producer Max Liebman, the one with the cigar, is given plenty of credit for helping Sid put together writing and performance teams that not only succeeded in the 1950s, but also went on to dominate American comedy and film for the next 25 years. Larry Gelbart went on to produce MASH. Woody Allen went on to become Woody Allen. Neil Doc Simon went on to become one of America's most successful playwrights and screenwriters. Carl Reiner went on to become an American TV comedy institution, and the list goes on and on. But let's not forget Mel Brooks. As Sid tells it, Mel's lucky to be alive to hear this story.
Almost threw him out of a window, yeah.
In this town?
Chicago at the Palmer House.
Would you tell that story?
I had finished about 7 or 8 shows at the Chicago Theater. And it was my usual pattern. After the shows were all over, I would have, go up my suite, have some drinks, and then eat. And Mel was sitting around and saying, listen, and my brother was there, Dave, at the time. And I started to drink and started to eat. And he said, look, Sid, I don't want to sit around here all night watching you drink. I'd like to go out. I said, you want to go out? We're out. This is Chicago. That's out. That's out far enough, isn't it? No, I want to go out. I said, you want to go out? That's easy. And I picked him up. I said, is that out far enough? And my
The
brother was-
18th floor of the Palmer House.
That's right. And I had him halfway out. My brother was there, Dave. Dave came in. Dave was 280 pounds. He took us both back in.
Are you friends with all these people today, or did you lose some of these people on the way through your nightmare?
I was the one who pushed them away. I didn't lose them. I made sure they went away because I wanted to punish myself. So
You didn't want to be worthy of their friendship.
Of course. I mean, how would they? I had to really punish myself and not even be associated with them. So I would never talk to them. I never call them. But now we're starting to make friends because I have to make friends with them. They don't have to make friends with me. I have to make friends with them.
So this is a process that you're working through just as well as your physical
Absolutely.
exercise.
Yes,
every day.
that's another thing. It's not just working out and diet. You have to assimilate with people. You have to shake hands. You have to trade ideas because you can't live in the world by yourself. You have to be inspired. You have to inspire. You have to trade ideas. You have to see what's going on. This is what life is about. Not just crawling in and being paranoid. This is all mine and no one's going to touch it. That's crazy.
Let's make believe for a minute. Let's say that I'm the head of one of the commercial network entertainment divisions, and I say to you, Sid, I've read your book. I've heard you on some of the talk shows. I believe you're in good shape. I always thought you were a genius. It's clear that you're in shape to do these things again today. Let's try some live television. I'll give you an hour, Saturday night at 9 o'clock. I'll give you a budget, $500,000 an hour. Won't give you quite as much as Rockford Files. You hire the writers, you hire the talent. Can you do it?
Yes. Definitely can do.
Want to do it?
Yes. Can do. Will do.
Live.
Live. Best.
Any conversations happening, or am I just making something up?
There's talk. I don't know about the live part, but there's talk about, doing something now. Whereas, 6, 7 weeks ago, there was nothing. Nobody was talking about anything.
If you could have talked to John Belushi before he died, what would you have said to John Belushi if you'd have known the problems that he had? Is there anything you can say to this young
I don't know if he would have
recruit?
listened, but the thing I could say is, hey, easy does it. Don't try to swallow the world in one gulp. And look at yourself. Appreciate life. God, I mean, you don't have to have all this all the circus going on around you. Stop and smell the roses. Listen to the birds. All the cliches are true. That's why they're cliches, because you've heard them a million times. Because they're true. Stop. If your life is that hectic, hold it. It's not worth it. It really isn't. Success is in your own head. It's all relative. And it's only in your own head. If you think you're successful, I don't care if you just come in and open the door and say, hi, you did it right. That's a success.
And would you tell me, I'm not quite sure that I understand, how did you come upon this self-therapy of talking with yourself? You went off to France to make a movie, but how did that start and why does that work?
It worked for me. I took this tape recorder because I was going to go to the museums, and I'm an audio person. I like to listen, and I can picture myself saying it and where I was. And I was going to take it to all the museums, the Jeu de Paume, the Louvre, and go to other places and talk about the pictures and the artifacts and all the statues. But I was in my room, and I started to talk to myself. I said, Sid, we're in Paris now. Now, you don't speak French, and I don't speak French. We're going to be here for 5.5 months. And if you don't have a good time, I'm not going to have a good time. So what do you say we make friends? Because we're going to be together 27 hours a day. So what do you say, let's be friends? And that's what I started. And it was Sid talking to Sidney. I became my own father.
And
I
others
split
have now
myself.
said that that really is classic Jungian therapy.
I never knew about it. But if it does, if it helped me, I mean, that's it. Because I listened to myself when I said, Sidney, you mendrick, you idiot, you dopo, what are you doing? Why are you getting yourself excited? Another thing I learned, I could be walking down the street, beautiful day, right? Not a care in the world, lovely, gorgeous day, had a beautiful meal, smoking a cigar, walking down the street, and all of a sudden, get to the middle of the block and say, well, maybe that happened. Well, if this happened, then that could happen. Well, if he finds out that this happened, well, that will happen. Well, if this happens, then, well, this could. All of a sudden, from nowhere, nothing happened. In the 15 seconds I walked from the corner to the middle of the block, why am I so depressed now? And I caught myself. It's a habit. Because I thought negatively. And I said, well, this could happen, that could happen. Sure, anything could happen. And probably will. But why pre-worry it? Why worry about something that may or may not happen? The odds against it are 1,000,000,000 to 1. So what you're doing is punishing yourself. I was punishing myself because I wouldn't let myself be happy. Here I was Just finished a beautiful meal, beautiful day, walking down the street. Nothing happened except up here. I did it. I was the one, and that's the trigger. Because when I catch those triggers, I say, nope, I am not going to fall for that one, because you have a million ways to punish yourself.
So Sid still talks with Sidney.
Yes. And I can't get rid of Sidney, because Sidney's the crazy one. Sidney's the one that goes around, makes all the creativity. But Sid keeps him under control. No, no, Sidney, we're not going to do that anymore. We had that. No more.
Together, they're great.
Together, they're marvelous, because I keep them together. I don't let Sidney go off running around anymore. Come over here, Sidney.
Got about a minute left. Could you have the professor or somebody say goodbye to our audience? I mean, or something?
Oh, no one speaks here German. I would just like to say, please, you can make it. Whatever it is, you can make it. You can be good. Because life is worth living. It's worth it because when you have time to relax and look at your life and appreciate it, just the fact that you can enjoy anything in life, it's worth it. It's a precious commodity. Don't throw it away. I did. I almost lost it. I'm sorry. But now I'm not sorry. Now I'm glad. And you're a marvelous man to talk to. Thank you, John.
I really enjoyed it.
My pleasure. Thank you.